Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Today we're going to talk about the 5 types of people who are most likely to be a narcissist magnet. Again, to all of you who are new subscribers, thank you so much. And for those of you who have been there with me since the beginning, thank you as well. Let's get more people on this bandwagon so we can all fight against narcissism together as a community. Just hit the bell, subscribe. We've got 2 new videos coming out a week. But let's talk about this absolutely critical topic. What are the 5 types of people that tend to be narcissist magnets? When I talk about each of these types, there's going to be some overlap. You could be more than one of these, which means you're kind of almost double at risk. But let's take it from the top. Number 1. People who are overly empathic. Now, I know a lot of people like to use the word empath. I'm even going to get away from that word because some people don't identify with that word, but they are incredibly empathic people. They care deeply. They're the person who always remembers to buy that second cup of coffee in case they think you're going to be at the office. They actually leave the closer parking spot available for you. They call, they check in. They're incredibly empathic people. Overly empathic people are magnificent. I wish we lived in a world full of them. We don't. Okay, all of us should be, though, absolutely filling our lives with these people. However, people who are overly empathic and not schooled in the red flags of narcissism are narcissist magnets. Why? Because they're empathic. And so they'll try to mirror back the narcissist feelings. They'll say, wow, you're so interesting. I'd love to hear more. It sounds like you really worked hard to get there. They'll get it all right. They'll mirror things back. And for the narcissist, the overly empathic person feels like mainlining validation. So you got to remember, though, the narcissist in general is relatively contemptuous of empathy. They're certainly not going to deliver it to somebody else. But when an overly empathic person crosses their path and is turning themselves upside down to make sure they hear and regard and validate the narcissist, as far as they're concerned, they've hit a home run, and they'll keep that overly empathic person around. Sadly, an overly empathic person who doesn't understand what they've backed into will keep offering that empathy, because that's what empathic people do, and keep trying to listen. And they're like, you know what? Maybe I'm not listening enough, so I'm going to try to listen a little bit harder. And they'll try harder and harder and harder, and I cannot begin to tell you. And some of you out there are listening saying, this is me. Like, I am overly empathic, and that's how I got corralled into this mess. Overly empathic people will actually exhaust themselves in these relationships before they get out. So that's the magnet number 1. Magnet number 2 are our rescuers. You guys know who you are, so don't hide, okay? And in fact, when we're done with this video, I want you to make a comment below and say which one you are. Like, are you an overly empathic or are you a rescuer? You rescuers know what you do. You meet someone and some of you are familiar with the story of Pygmalion, sometimes called My Fair Lady, that they meet the sort of common flower girl in the streets of London and turn her into a fine lady of society. Rescuers, it's like the modern version of that is Clueless, where they take the ordinary girl in the high school and turn her into the hot girl who wins other people over and try to do it with the best of intentions. So rescuers, though, try to rescue people. They are often very empathic indeed, but they're also very focused on, oh man, they've had a rough start. Like, they had a really mean dad, or they had a really mean mom, or they had a really hard start in life, or their family didn't have a lot of money, or they grew up in a really rough neighborhood, so I'm going to save them. Rescuers can actually get themselves into a whole heap of trouble. They can move in with people, or let people move in with them way too early in a relationship because they're trying to save them. Rescuers can give people money, way more money than they should be, because the person's kind of selling them a story that, oh, if I only had this much money to get these bills, I'd be back on my feet. They can put themselves into uncomfortable positions. Rescuers can call in favors for other people to get them jobs and stuff, and then have that person screw up the job, making the rescuer look like a fool. Rescuers are notorious for putting themselves into really problematic spots with the goal of rescuing another person. So you can see then how a narcissist would so be able to prey on this. Narcissists are really good at selling a really sad story in the beginning. They'll often tell you stories of how they were bullied, or how their parents were mean to them, or how everyone was mean to them, and victim, victim, victim. And they'll tell you that as early as the first or second date. Always pay attention when somebody really doubles down on their sad sack stories really early, because it really is quite manipulative, because now you, especially for the rescuers, who now feel that they have to save this person. So rescuers are absolutely narcissist magnets. Number three are our overly positive people. You little balls of sunshine out there, you know who you are. You are the people who are like, let's put our good intentions out there, because sunlight begets sunlight, and I feel a perfect day coming, so let's all say our positive intentions. Bless you. Bless you for having that positive attitude in a world that's making it harder all the time. That positive attitude, actually, if you really own it, it's going to be quite good for your health. But the one thing it also makes you is a narcissist magnet, because an overly positive person can't imagine in such a beautiful, fair, and just world how there could be people out there who lack empathy and are entitled, grandiose, and can't change. In fact, many times when I've met overly positive people, they're like, I refuse to believe that. Everybody has some good in them. All right, but not enough. I mean, it can't be a 90-10 split here on the bad good here, right? So it's very much that the overly positive people will find that one grain of good and run with it. Narcissists manipulate this and exploit this absolutely to their best interest, because what they realize is, like, I can get away with anything with this person, and they're always going to see it from a sunshiny perspective. And in that way, overly positive people who are so good at telling all of us how wonderful and positive and great we are, they do the same thing for the narcissist. They're pretty equal opportunity in their positivity. So can you imagine being a narcissist and then someone is so positive with you? You're so amazing, and you say such amazing things, and you're doing such amazing things in the world. That overly positive person is crack for a narcissist. And that makes them a narcissist magnet. Very easy for them to take advantage of. And what is actually quite devastating is for many overly positive people, after they go through the ringer with a narcissist, they're actually sometimes made to look for the first time in a very real way at the darker side of human nature, and it can be a real sort of loss of innocence for them, which they end up grieving quite a bit. Our fourth set of narcissist magnets are our forgivers. Again, you know who you are out there. Overly forgiving people. You must be thinking, Dr. Romani, are you really that hard-hearted that you're saying that forgiving people are narcissist magnets? Yes, I am. Because what do forgiving people do? They give lots and lots of second chances. And just like with all of these other people, our rescuers, our overly empathic people, and our positive people, glorious, glorious souls. The warm, compassionate people that we need the world to be full of. But the struggle with the forgivers is that they do keep giving the narcissist second chances. You gotta remember, forgiveness is a pretty dangerous game with narcissists, something we're going to be talking about in another video. But what narcissists do with forgiveness is, a healthy person, when they get forgiveness, say, I am so lucky that I just got forgiven, and I need to change my behavior so I don't hurt this person again. Do you know what a narcissist thinks about forgiveness? To them, oh, come on, you know. To them, forgiveness is permission. Oh, this is great. I could do all this terrible stuff, and they just say, I forgive you, and I could do it again, and I get to do it again. Psych, this is great. And sadly, that's how it often goes down. And for forgiving people who really view their forgiveness from a divine space, it can be exhausting and demoralizing to see that their forgiveness is entirely being taken advantage of. One of the struggles around forgiveness is it often has a very, very tight spiritual core. People are raised with it. in certain religions like Christianity, forgiveness is a really big piece of what is communicated in terms of scripture and in terms of what people are taught. And the challenge then becomes, if somebody that forgiving meets a narcissistic person, and I've heard this time and time again, so often when I talk with people about their narcissistic relationships, particularly like intimate, like romantic relationships, they'll say, yeah, I saw this from the beginning, but I felt it was just the right thing to keep forgiving them because that was just the right thing to do. And I just assumed they'd learn from it. 15 years later, they're still forgiving, but there's not much left of these poor forgivers. Okay? Forgiveness can be a very, very divine state, but it has to be handed out judiciously, and it really is not a useful stance to take with a narcissist. If anything, the forgivers need to learn to forgive themselves, but not the narcissists. And then group number 5 of our narcissist magnets are people who themselves had narcissistic parents. Having a narcissistic parent is a setup to be a magnet for narcissists as an adult. Why would that be? You think you learned your lesson. You probably didn't. Because even as you get to 18, 19, 20 years of age, you may not have figured out what to call this thing. You might have thought, well, all human relationships require me having to prove myself and feel like I'm not enough and bring vast amounts of narcissistic supply to a person. Isn't that what a normal relationship is? So what happens is, over a lifetime of this, it almost normalizes what narcissism is in your life, and you almost get used to it. You get what we call habituated to it. You get used to it, basically, like the temperature in a room. And then you get masterful at learning the workarounds. And as a result, when a narcissistic person comes into your purview, you might be less likely to say, well, this is not okay, this doesn't feel good, this feels toxic. And rather, try to figure out the workarounds. You've done it your whole life. Why would this relationship, this boyfriend, girlfriend, boss, friend, be any different? Okay? So that's how these 5 types of folks become narcissist magnets. Now, is it possible someone could be a rescuer and a forgiver? Heck yeah. A lot of this stuff hangs together. So that's where I'd love to hear, and I would love to see your comments on the bottom of this video. If you could make some, let me know. What are you? Are some of you saying, yep, I'm overly empathic? I'd almost want to take like a casual poll here to figure out how many of you are what. Those of you who've attracted narcissists in your life inadvertently. It's not like you went out looking for this. But then to figure out if any of these themes are what might have made you more vulnerable to the dangerous charm of the narcissist. These qualities, being overly empathic, wanting to help your fellow human being, having a positive point of view, engaging in the divine state of forgiveness, are really, really healthy, important spaces to be in. But you've got to be careful. You're going to rescue someone, put that in someone else who deserves it, who actually takes the chance you give them and runs with it and pays it forward to someone else. If you're going to forgive someone and they turn around and do the thing they did again, then they're out of forgiveness. You can't just keep handing it over as something to be abused and discarded. And the fact of the matter is, having narcissistic parents can be a very painful legacy that sadly can harm us in adulthood when we remain actually relatively vulnerable to the harms and the charms of narcissists. So please do let me know if any of these types sort of fit you and if these were the things that might have made you a magnet for a narcissist. And as always, please subscribe, hit the bell, please join our community, and thank you again.